Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of The Blacklist. A great season finale, a beautiful, sad, and powerful episode in general. Obviously, we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of the last episode. Dembe runs the fingerprints and is like, yep, your boy Townsend is dead. Because I was about to say, like, oh, there's a chance that he got away, but it's like, no, he's dead. But obviously, Reddington, it's not, like, this is good, like, this is a victory, but the war isn't over. This was just one battle, because, or maybe you can think of, yeah, this war is over, but there's many more on the horizons, because now that Townsend's going, it's going to be a power vacuum in the criminal world, everyone aiming to eat up all that Townsend had accumulated. And so it is a situation of Liz will never 100% be safe because there's no telling who Townsend told. He was in bed and connected to a lot of people. Reddington was already afraid of like anyone else finding out what he his secret, ever getting out. Like obviously we've seen how someone like Townsend reacted. If anyone else in the world found out too, they'd come after Liz as well, Liz and Agnes. So it's the situation where like it was already kind of a concern about that already, and like, he has no idea who Townsend might have told. He might have told some associates who told other people. We don't know. So for him, he's no longer going to fight his illness. It's like he's kind of accepting his death because in his mind, he needs to die so that Liz can take over the reins. Even though she's said time and time again she has no interest in taking over the business. But even Dimmon's like later on being like, no, you're getting better. But for Reddington, it's like, what I have, there's no curing it. It's terminal. And even if I'm getting better now, I'm going to end up dying maybe a week. I mean, not like a year or so from now, but it doesn't matter. Like, I think it's also a thing of I need to go out on my own terms. I'd rather not this be what kills me. I'd rather Reddington's always kind of lived his life like that. Even to the point he even says that thing of like, I've always been prepared to die. Like, living in that criminal world, any day can be your last. He's seen so many people like face their last day. It's like, there's no guarantees in that world. It's the most unguaranteeable profession in the world is being a criminal, because things could always go sideways. There's never a sure thing in that world. Obviously, Liz is recovering. And I even love the moment between her and Denbei where it's like, for her, it's like, Denbei's trying to make her feel better by saying like, regardless, I get how you feel, how you can kind of hate him sometimes, and even I hate him sometimes, but it is still a thing that Reddington has always tried to do his best, like, for them. So it's kind of like, try to understand his point of view on why he's kind of done all that he's done. Like, obviously, she's still missing that final piece, because it's like, right, when I get this final piece, will it all make sense of why he came into my life and everything, so. But he brings Agnes and Miss French. And I'm like, okay, so that's just like, that's why I'm like, who is Miss French? Like, once again, it got brought up like, oh, you're a friend of Katarina's. And that's why I'm like, the fact is, once again, that kind of plays into it. I'm like, is that why you're so tight with like, because I think Miss French is actually a contact and an old friend of Katarina's. I think that's what it is. Whether Miss French is in the know, I have no idea. It's unclear. But at just that moment right there, it's like, despite everything Liz has done, like, but I guess it's why, if Liz is okay with you, I'm okay with you. Also thought it was so adorable that, like, Agnes calls him Pink. It's like, he says his name is Red, but I think it's more so Pink, so she calls him Pinky. At the same time, Reddington is meeting with Cooper. Even the whole thing with Aram, I love it. It's like, Donald's getting better, so he's gonna make a full recovery. It's like, oh, that's awesome. That's good to know. And he's hitting the balloons. And he's like, oh, you want to take a toke? He's like, I kind of want to know. I'd love to hear you sound like you're one of the Lollipop Guild. And then him and Dembe go in there, and Cooper's like, oh, okay, Elvis. And then they have their like high pitched voices, and then just like Cooper's looking at Reddington's like, I thought Aram was the only man child around here. Please tell me you're above this. And looks at Dembe, and Dembe's like, yeah, it's unprofessional and all that, while he has a high voice. And it's just like, I love it. It's so adorable. But Reddington's like, oh, allow us to kind of indulge in all of this. But it's like, right. He's basically giving Cooper a file on like a lot of stuff. It's like, right, the Blacklist is going to need to continue. And here's some people who potentially benefit from Townsend's death and what might circle in and try and get some of that power. So need you to look into this. And it's like, oh, because I need Liz to take over. And it's like, why would she? It's like, because I'm going to die. And it's like, wait. He's like, wait, are you that sick? He's like, I knew you were sick, but I didn't know it was this bad. It's like, but Reddington's not doing anything. But it's just like, promise me when it's all said and done, no matter what happens, you're going to look after Liz. You've always been a counselor to her, and I want you to kind of continue that for me, Harold. And it's just like, promise me. He's like, of course, I will always do my best for Liz. And it's just, he's like, you're a good friend, I think Harold might be the closest thing Reddington has to a good friend, a best friend, even back, and it's like a complicated friendship, But despite everything, Denbei is still trying to talk Reddington out of doing this, because Denbei, obviously, it's like, you don't have to do this. Like, there has to be another way. And obviously, when he eventually explains this to Liz, she's not too keen on it. Because it's like, right, here's a letter from your mom. And she's like, why would you have a letter? Like, who were you to my mom? And it's just like, I need you to do this. I need you to, basically, he's like, I need you to take over everything. In fact, it's like, he's like, I need you to do something for me. Like, on one condition, like, I'll give you this letter that will potentially give you answers. It's like, okay, he's like, there's no conditions. Like, I deserved answers a long time ago. It's like, yes, you did. But I will give you on one condition. It's like, what are those conditions? I need you to take my life. Because for him, it's like, the only way the criminal world's going to accept you and you will have some defense, it's like, whoa, you were able to do what no other criminal organization, no government agency has been able to do. And that's not only just take down Raymond Reddington, but kill him and take the crown, And Liz has her reservations about doing that. For her, it's like, I don't want to do that. And obviously she's bouncing between so many people because she talks to Cooper about it. Cooper wants her to do it. It's like, yes, he has some concerns about what this would do physically and mentally and emotionally to her. Yeah, so that concerns him. But at the very least, doing this, taking over, will give her the protection needed so that he can protect her and her daughter. And for him, that's all he wants. He's only thing he's ever wanted. Same thing Reddington's always wanted is for Liz and her, Agnes to be safe. And it's like, this is the best option. So Cooper's all about it. Wrestler isn't, because he's like, you're not a criminal. You're not him. Like, you're better. Like, the fact of the matter is, if you went down this route, you'd basically have to go through the rest of your life pretending to be something you're not. Being that criminal isn't who you are. I even love, like, it's like, oh, the better, because Cooper's like, yeah, you could check on Wrestler, like, he's worried about you and everything, but, Call would be better. She's like, yeah, but that wouldn't be any fun. So she snuck in and, dressed up like a doctor and everything to see him. But for her decision was, like, especially after talking to Wrestler, was kind of like, you know what, I am just going to disappear. I'm going to leave this all behind, because even Cooper was saying, like, if you did take over for Reddington, the deal they have for Reddington could pass on to Liz. Like, they could keep doing the good work they're doing. At the very least, that could be a silver lining to this. We've done a lot of good work, taking down a lot of blacklisters. We could continue doing that work because the torch gets passed to you. Panda Baker would have no choice but to give you an immunity deal just to make sure that, this good work continues and everything. But Liz was more so on the side of like, no, I'm going to leave this all behind, and ends up running into... I'm assuming it's the same actress. That I don't even remember that scene, like her taking that bomb off that little girl. That has to be some season 1 stuff. Once again, I've seen every season of the Blacklist once, so I have not seen the first season since like its original airing. So like, I believe that's like super early. I'm assuming that's supposed to be the actress now older, but she's like, yeah, I'm General Riker's daughter. It's like, holy crap. She's like, that's you. Because the moment she's like, wait, are you Agent Elizabeth King? I was like, oh boy, because I figured enemies are going to be coming out of the woodwork. So I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to come over and kill. Oh, wait, what? I just still kept expecting, because I was like, I don't trust this. But it's like, what are you going to do? She's like, I'm no longer an agent. It's like, well, what do you do? She's like, I'm trying to figure it out. It's like, my dad said that bomb wouldn't have just killed me. It would have saved thousands of people who are just living their lives now. It's like, you save so many lives and you do such good work. I hope no matter what you decide to do next, that you keep doing that, And that's what shifted things for Liz they're like, all right, like the work they do is good, and it's like if I'm in Reddington's position, I can continue to save and help people. So she meets with Reddington. It's like, right, I'm fine with this being a potential outcome. So, it's actually a really interesting conversation they have. It's almost basically a nature versus nurture conversation, because part of her is like, it's like who I am right now. Am I really the criminal I am because it's just so in my DNA? Or is it because of you? And he's like, I've asked myself that question time and time again. You were born from a lie. Your mother was like this renowned spy, and you came about as like a part of her mission, So it was something born out of a lie, but it still was something that eventually grew out of something. It meant something, but it's like, because that is in your DNA, because of who your mom is, you are predisposed to lying to, this criminal world. So... But at the end of the day, for Reddington, regardless of all of that, whether it's fate, destiny that kind of led them all here, because that is a part of everything as well. Because that was a part of what Dembe was talking about earlier too, that there is some form of like, regardless of it, just Reddington played his own part in everything, sure, but a lot of it was just fate and destiny. Like, maybe this is the way things are always meant to be. So whatever the case may be, everything has led Liz to be who she is now. And that, good and bad. And so, fate, destiny, karma, whatever you want to call it, here we are. And so, because at the end of the day, regardless of everything, the mission statement is still the same. To keep Liz safe, to protect her child. That's the main thing. That's always been the main thing. And Reddington feels like, he had talked about it earlier with Denbei, where... Obviously, there's been a lot of good and bad in his life, but everything has made him who he is. And, for him, he had talked about control, and I thought that was so fascinating. Because when you're living that world, you like to believe you have so much control over things. He talks about, he looks back on who he was so many years ago. He's like, I was a completely different person. I was so young and inexperienced. And so, but now all of that has led me to where I am now. Because I still, on some level, fight that belief that I do have some control, when in actuality I have no control over any of this. He likes to believe it. He likes to believe that, like, on some level he has some control, but it's like things have just happened out of his control. Like, no matter how, because that's isn't that the whole like adage of like, man plans, God laughs, that type of thing. So it's like, no matter how much Reddington has planned and calculated for so much over those 30 years, there have been so many surprises that has hit him over the course of this series, because no matter how much he tries to control everything, it all slips through his fingers because it's beyond his control. That's just the way this all works. So, and I don't mean that just in like just like, legitimately just in a case of just is how the world works. Like, there's so much that can't be controlled. And so, for him, it's like, he's still holding on to that belief, even though he knows, like, I'm kind of crazy, but he still wants to hold on to that belief that I can protect Liz, even if it costs me my life. As long as I can do this, then it's worthwhile in the end. And so he talks to Liz about the plan. It's like, right, there's going to be a party, there's going to be a celebration, there's going to be a gathering of friends. Basically goes blow by blow, and it's like, when we get to the end of it, I'm gonna walk out, and you're gonna be there, and you're gonna kill me, and it's gonna be on camera. You're going to have enough time to get away, and they even set it up like what hospital is going to get his body, just so they can make sure, like, not to try and resuscitate him or anything. It's like, I want it to be in clear view. Like, obviously the footage, the CCTV is going to get leaked, and everyone in the world's going to know you killed Raymond Reddington. And for her, she's like, I don't think I'll be able to do it. And for Reddington, it's like, she's like, despite everything, all the times I've wanted and tried to kill you, this is a moment where, like, I actually don't know if I'll be able to do it this time, because I don't want to do it. And that's the thing, because, and I know, like, that's been a point of issue for a lot of people, is like, they just don't like how back and forth Liz is. I think she's entitled to be as back and forth as she is. I know people can have pushback against that, but it's like, when your entire life is based on a lie, like, because, every time she turns around, she's told one thing, and it turns out not to be true. She always get half-truths instead of the full truth, so it's understandable why she would feel the way that she does about everything, So I can understand why she goes to the lengths that she's going to, like, to go at Reddington, not just this season, previous seasons as well. It makes sense why we've she's going through the journey she's going through, because people aren't black and white. People are so complicated, and I think Liz's feelings are super complicated because in a weird way she does love Reddington, but at the same time there's a part of her, like even Dembe admitted, like, oh yeah, there's sometimes I hate him just because who I've become because of him as well. But it's like there's still love there, even though there is a little bit of hate, and that's humans. We're capable of that, So it's just I am not, like, I know for some people they've had major issues, especially with Liz's story this season. I think it's rubbed some fans the wrong way, which, like, I can understand why. Like, they feel, and I felt that way in the past. Where I was like, it feels like Liz is a little ungrateful, not realizing like everything Reddington has ever done has been for you. But at the same time, it's like he's responsible for a lot of death in your life too. Yes, there's good, but man, is there a lot of death. There are a lot of people you care about that are dead. Yes, partially because of your actions, but mainly because Reddington being in your life led you to take certain actions, which led to the people you care about being dead. So it still all goes back to Reddington anyway. Once again, it's that whole control thing. If he had his way, none of it would have spiraled out to her losing the people she cares about, but it's all beyond his control. Like, the dominoes fell where they fell. So, but even Liz trying to wonder, like, right, you won't give me the letter that will explain everything, who you are to me. She even pulls out the picture. It's like, right, there was someone else who took this photo. You're that person. He was like, and he very cleverly just says, I was there. I was like, yeah, it seems like, because Liz never thought to her. So I'm going to go ahead and say, like, Liz never thought, well, it could have been an automated photo. It never crossed her mind to think that. But it's like, why won't you let me know the truth about who you really are and everything about my mom's circumstances? Like, won't let me know what she is. It's like, because if I let you know the truth, you're not going to be able to pull the trigger. You're already having reservations now, but it's like, you won't want to kill me if I find it. That's why you have to find out after I'm dead, because it'll suck then, but you will have been able to do it and you'll be okay. You'll find a way to move forward in some shape or form, and that's all that matters in. But also, it's like, let's put all that aside. Let's just be here now. Let's just be. And so as they're walking, they're holding hands. I was like, that's so beautiful. Like, they've had their intimate moments, but I think that's the most intimate moment right there, them holding hands like that. And hanging with Denbei and Mrs. French and Agnes. All in, all of that. Like, it was just kind of a nice moment of just like, what's coming tonight is what's coming tonight. But for now, let's put that out of our mind. Just like, have fun, enjoy this, And even because Reddington had actually told Agnes a story earlier about a Russian princess who didn't want to be, the princess, But it's like, her mom was like, oh, what would you think the princess should do? And Agnes was like, she is a princess, so she can kind of to take her throne type of thing. But despite everything, Liz is still struggling with this, to the point she calls up Aram and it's like, right, he's like, oh, I'm not going to be a part, but she's like, no, I'm not calling for that. It's like, I wanted you to forgive me I wanted to ask for your forgiveness for what I've done, what I'll do, and what I'm going to end up doing, And she kept it super cryptic, but he's like not understanding what that was all about. And it's not till Wrestler's talking to Cooper that's like, wait, what? Oh, like, and ends up figuring, like, Donald's the one that kind of pieced it together, like, what, right, Liz is going to kill Reddington, this was his whole plan, like, making it a big show and everything, because, and they're all working together to stop it, because, like, right, because they ended up, because earlier, Cooper talked to Aram and Park about, like, right, Reddington is like, here's all these people that have connections to Townsend. Reddington wants to keep an eye on them to make sure they don't get his powers. Like, oh yeah, so Reddington can swoop in. It's like, no, he doesn't want the power. It's like, he wants it to Liz. And the Ram's like, funny. It's like, no, it's not meant to be funny, because that's serious. He wants Liz to take it. It's like, but she won't. It's like, yeah, but that's kind of the whole point. And so it's kind of a race against time to stop things, because like, if Liz pulls that trigger, there's no going back. Like, everything's set forward. Even Denbei, like, Reddington's telling him over and over again, and Denbei's like, we've written through it. And it's like, because I think for Denbei, it's like, right, I've already got it set in my mind of what's going to happen. I don't have to like it. I accept that this is what you want, but I don't have to like it. So it's like, he didn't want to keep running through it again and again of what this would have meant for Reddington. And it's like, are you ready? And he's like, no. And Reddington's like, me neither. And so at the party and everything, celebrating, kind of saying goodbye. I thought we would have seen some of his more illicit parties, but I think this is the restaurant, like, the more legitimate side of things. I think it's like, right, like, I think he wanted the last thing he did and be a part of was something good, not something like bad, but it's like, right, this restaurant and what it represents, going out on like a high note with some good out there in the world. And Liz is talking to her daughter about like, right, she's kind of sad that, a friend of hers is sick, and it's like, he won't get better. It's like, will he die? And she's like, yeah. But at the same time, it's like, it's like, she talks about how he feels happy about, the friends and everything that's kind of happened in his life. And obviously, like, Agnes kind of makes comparisons like, oh, like, you're blessed. He's blessed. And she's like, right, how do you know such a big word, Smarty? And she's like, because you said the same thing about, like, even though Daddy's not here with me and he's in heaven, but he was blessed to be able to see me as a little baby, and, your friend is blessed, and, and obviously Liz being like, she's blessed as well. So you can tell in that moment, you're like, is she having second thoughts about this? Like, what's going to go happen? And in that moment, like, when the time came, like, Liz couldn't pull the trigger. She's like, I can't. He's like, no, it's okay. I wonder, did Reddington have a backup plan? Like, was he still going to force her hand to shoot him? Or what? I thought he was going to have, like, someone else far away shoot and then make it look like it was Liz anyway. I don't know. But then, sadly, Liz gets shot. It's Townsend's right-hand man. I'm not surprised. That was kind of going through my mind. I'm like, Townsend may be dead, but not his entire group. Like, he has at least technically 3 of his right-hand people are still out there. So his right-hand man ends up pulling the trigger, and Reddington, like, empties a clip into him. And in that moment, like, it's, right before you die, like, Liz's entire life was flashing before her eyes. Everything and everyone she knows in this life, everything she holds special. And then Reddington being there with her, even in that moment, she can't say anything, but she's looking and figuring it out. It blurs all together. Right. Everything you've said, it's like, right, you're my mom. And obviously Dembe's pulling him away, and the team rushes over, and she's there bleeding out, because Reddington didn't want to leave her. And that's the thing. Everything has been about protecting your daughter, And for her to die in front of you, it's like, no, this isn't how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to die. She's supposed to live. It's like, once again, the world is beyond your control. And in that moment, the world just kind of said the dominoes are falling this way. It kind of flipped you off and was like, nope, this is just the way things are. It's like, everything you've done, everything you fought to make sure she survived just for this to be the moment, And everyone, Park, Aram, Cooper, and, Wrestler, because Wrestler literally ran there from the hospital to get to her, and she's bleeding out, and that's the last we see of the episode. So the Blacklist was already renewed for a 9th season. I had to confirm just to make sure, like, nothing had changed in between them, but it's still at least confirmed. Now, this is where we get into some interesting territory. I brought up something like last episode that I stumbled across, and I was like super vague about what it was. So, the thing that I was super vague was about, I came across a video. I didn't watch it. I just saw a thumbnail and a picture, and it was saying Megan Boone, the actress who plays Liz, was leaving the Blacklist after this season. Granted, that was super ambiguous, so it could have, once again, I didn't watch the video, so it could have been like, oh, like, I was thinking, I was like, I didn't know how to interpret that. I thought it was going to be like, okay, Liz is going to be doing her criminal thing, but it's going to be off screen, and I'm like, how is that going to work structurally for the show? And it turns out Liz is, I take that as like, it's a different comparison. I was about to reference another show, but I'm like, I don't want to turn this into an apples and oranges thing. I think that is confirming that Liz died. Which sucks, which is heartbreaking. Like, I don't know whether that's, like, maybe because Megan Boone was like, I want to, like, I don't know if that was always going to be like, no, they always planned for this to be the case. It's like, it sucks. This doesn't seem like like, last time she died, she faked her death. This time, it's like, nah, this is for real this time. And it's like, all of them, like, picking up the pieces to this. It's going to be up to Reddington or Katarina to, protect Agnes. It's like, right, that little girl is going to grow up without either of her parents. Liz's situation was already bad enough because it's like, right, her dad was dead. Her mom, she believed her mom was dead and to find out, like, oh, she's actually alive and all that, and that just got super complicated. It's like, without even realizing that she spent this entire journey with her mom, and obviously, Katarina was able to spend this entire time with Liz, but it's still a thing of, like, it's not fair that she lost her daughter in the end. I think that's where, like, that's the thing I'm curious about. I kind of want to know, but at the same time, I kind of don't want to know. Because part of me was wondering, like, do you think they're actually going to, like, do a bait and switch and make it seem like Liz died, but this is her way to kind of get out of it by, you know, I mean, it would be like her technically faking her death again, but I don't see that. I think this is, like, legitimate death. I think she's gone. So crazy to think about that. I mean, it's not like this is the first time a show's killed off a major character, like, so far into its run. It's happened. There's another show that, like, it hasn't had as many seasons, but they ended up killing off their main character, one of their leads. Because I think it's kind of a bit of an ensemble cast, but one of their first leads in the show dead, like, at the end of the 4th season, and there ended up being only one more season. Granted, the show could have gone a little bit longer, but the show sadly got canceled. I won't reference what show it is in particular, just in case someone hasn't watched it, but it kind of reminds me of that, because I'm like, it's 8 seasons in, and you kill one of your leads. That's ballsy, dude, and I'm really curious to know how people are going to feel about that. I could definitely see that being a choice where people were like, I hate it. Some other people were like, I love it. Because I remember fan reactions to this particular show I'm referencing. Some people, I remember getting comments on my review where people are like, I'm not watching that the show's coming back for 5th season. I'm not watching it. This character's dead. It killed the show for me. I can understand that. So I'm legitimately still curious. It's heartbreaking. I mean, gut-wrenchingly heartbreaking, because not just like, oh, that sucks, because I've loved following Liz's journey. Like, this has always been Liz's journey, and for it to be cut short like this, I mean, I guess it's almost like borderline like an Iron Man type of thing, if you want to kind of get into it. I think you can make some comparisons in that regard, which is interesting to make that comparison considering James Spader's in the MCU, because he played Ultron. Regardless and all that, it's just interesting to think about. But it's like, I don't know. I'm legitimately curious to know what the fan base is going to feel about this. Whether it is going to be a situation, because a choice like that, like I said, I don't know whether it's because Megan Boone was like, I want to make my exit to the show. You would think you'd kind of leave it a little open just for future stuff, but it makes me think like leaving was meant to be kind of an avoidance to it, or, you know, maybe leaving is supposed to be code for, oh, you're getting killed, or leaving could just be like oh no, like, it was supposed to be subterfuge, so you think she's just leaving and Liz just isn't going to be a part of the story. It's like, no, she's dead. I don't know. Like I said, I'm figuring, like, probably when we open with season 9, it's going to be, like, immediately after Liz's funeral. We'll probably get to see that. Or it might be even further in the aftermath of that. I'm wondering, I mean, you could definitely see this being, like, a time skip situation, like, dealing with, like, I don't know if they would do that at this point, but I could definitely see, like, a time skip situation of, like, an older Agnes, like, having grown up without her mom, and what that necessarily means. I could definitely see them doing that. Whether they do that immediately, jump to that would probably not be, I don't know. Because it's interesting, because remember, this was always supposed to be Reddington's endgame. Now, that definitely makes you feel like we are nearing the end of this series. From what I've read, and I could be wrong, and that could easily change, does not seem like this 9th season is going to be the final season, so there's still some story to tell, but you definitely feel like with something like this, it definitely feels like the conclusion's coming in some shape or form, especially if Reddington is sick, and I think Reddington's only reason for living now is to protect Agnes. So that's going to keep him going. That's the only reason, like, now I'll do the treatments and everything. I'm going to get better because I need to look after my grandchild instead of my daughter can't be here to do it. So it's up to me as her, mother to look after my grandchild, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see what next season has in store. Like, I mean, hell, we might see Liz had been on her rampages, like, Reddington's had his, but this might be a whole new level of, like, just instead of drowning in grief, popping and killing everyone, because it's like, I'm not going to take the chance that anyone comes after Agnes. I don't know. There are a lot of questions along with all of that, I could easily look into it later on, but, for now, just kind of leave things as they are. I'm so curious to see what they're going to do with season 9, and I'm really curious what the fan reaction is going to be. I am recording this later than, it's like 6 o'clock, almost 6 o'clock when I'm recording this, because I completely forgot, because, NBC moved these to Wednesdays, and I completely forgot, so, like, I didn't watch it, so, obviously, it's been, like, already, like, a couple hours because obviously it aired last night. But so when this actually goes up tomorrow, it should be the first thing that goes up like 8 a.m. tomorrow, depending on just like how much work I'm able to get through. But opinions might even change. Some stuff, more information might come out in between that time frame as well. Like I said, I'm really curious to see what the fan reaction is going to be to like next season, and whether some people are just going to straight up bail on the show, or there's people going to be like, I'm gonna watch the premiere just to see. But for me, I'm also like, nah, I'm invested. Like, I'm all in. Like, I'm so curious to see where they go with this, so. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live light to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.